She was just a waitress wiping down tables when she found a child dying on the street and made one phone call that would destroy her life as she knew it. The voice on the other end belonged to an African king worth $400 million, and within minutes, Clara Evans went from invisible to accused, from compassionate stranger to public scandal. They said she was a gold digger. They said she planned it. They fired her, photographed her, and tore her apart on social media for daring to save a prince's life. But what no one saw coming was the king himself, a man who'd locked his heart away after tragedy, standing before the world and choosing her anyway. What happens when a poor American waitress and a powerful monarch decide that love is worth more than crowns, councils, or public opinion? Subscribe and comment below if you believe love can really cross any divide, because this true story will restore your faith in the impossible. The evening air felt heavy against Clara's skin as she pushed through the diner's back door. Her feet ached. Her lower back throbbed. The smell of grease and burnt coffee clung to her uniform like a second skin. She'd been on her feet for 9 hours straight. The alley behind Joe's diner wasn't much to look at. Cracked pavement, dumpsters that needed emptying, a flickering streetlight that buzzed like an angry wasp, but it was quiet. And after a shift like today, quiet was all Clara wanted. She hefted the trash bag over her shoulder and walked toward the dumpster. The streetlight buzzed. A car horn honked somewhere in the distance. Normal sounds, safe sounds. Then she heard it. A soft thud. Clara froze. She turned toward Maple Street, squinting into the growing darkness. At first, she saw nothing, just shadows and the glow of headlights passing by. But then she saw him, a small boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old. He was on the sidewalk, crumpled like a discarded paper bag. His body lay perfectly still. The trash bag slipped from Clara's hands. "Hey!" She ran toward him, her worn sneakers slapping against the pavement. "Hey, are you okay?" No response. People walked past. A woman in heels, a man checking his phone, a couple laughing together. No one stopped. No one even looked down. Clara's heart hammered in her chest. She dropped to her knees beside the boy, ignoring the pain as concrete bit into her skin. His face was beautiful, dark brown skin, long eyelashes, a small, perfectly shaped nose. "Can you hear me?" Her voice shook. "Sweetie, can you hear me?" Nothing. She pressed 2 fingers against his neck, searching for a pulse. There, faint but steady. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by fresh panic. "Someone help!" she shouted at the passing strangers. "Please, he needs help!" A businessman glanced over, frowned, then kept walking. Clara fumbled for her phone with trembling hands. She dialed 911, her mind racing. What if he was hurt? What if he was dying? What if... Her eyes caught on something gold, a bracelet, heavy and ornate, wrapped around the boy's thin wrist. Clara squinted at it. Strange symbols were carved into the metal, beautiful, foreign, and beneath them, barely visible in the dim light, a phone number. Someone loved this child enough to make sure he could be found. Clara's thumb hovered over the call button to 911. She looked at the bracelet again. Then she made a choice. She dialed the number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered, deep, commanding, laced with an accent she couldn't quite place. "Who is this?" Clara's mouth went dry. I found a boy. He's unconscious on Maple Street. There's a number on his bracelet and I—" "What boy?" The voice cut through her words like a knife. "Describe him." "He's young, maybe 8, dark skin. He's wearing nice clothes and—" "Cairo." The word was barely a whisper, but Clara heard the fear beneath it. "Where exactly are you?" "Maple Street, behind Joe's diner. I called because—" "Do not move." The command in his voice made her spine straighten. "Do not let anyone touch him." "I am coming." The line went dead. Clara stared at her phone. Her hands were still shaking. Who was that? What kind of person spoke with that much authority? She looked down at the boy, Cairo. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. She touched his forehead gently. No fever. That was good, wasn't it? "It's okay," she whispered, even though he couldn't hear her. "Help is coming. You're going to be okay." Minutes crawled by like hours. Clara kept one hand on Cairo's shoulder, monitoring his breathing. People continued to walk past. Some glanced over. Most didn't. Then she heard them. Engines. Multiple engines, growing louder by the second. 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt at the curb. Doors flew open. Men in dark suits poured out onto the street, their faces hard and alert. They moved with military precision, forming a perimeter around Clara and the boy. Clara scrambled backward, her heart in her throat. "What? Step aside." One of the men reached for her arm. She yanked away. "I'm not leaving him. Miss, you need to—" "She stays." The voice from the phone. Clara looked up. A man emerged from the center SUV. Tall, broad-shouldered. His skin was deep black, smooth and rich like polished mahogany. He wore an expensive suit that fit him perfectly, and he moved with the kind of grace that made everyone else look clumsy. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark, intense. Focused entirely on the small body lying on the sidewalk, he crossed the distance in 3 long strides and dropped to his knees beside his son. "Cairo," his voice cracked. "Cairo, can you hear me?" The boy didn't respond. The man's jaw tightened. He looked up at one of the suited men. "Where are the paramedics?" 2 minutes out. "You're not good enough." He scooped Cairo into his arms with impossible gentleness. "We take him now." "Your Majesty. Protocol requires—" "I said now." "Your Majesty." Clara's mind reeled. She pressed herself against the brick wall of the diner, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. This man, this king, held his son like the child was made of glass. His hands trembled slightly. His breathing came too fast. He was terrified. An ambulance wailed in the distance, growing closer. The king carried Cairo toward one of the SUVs, barking orders Clara couldn't quite hear. The suited men scattered, moving with purpose. And then one of them turned toward her. "You." He was older than the others, grey at his temples, a scar across his jaw. "You're the one who called?" Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. "What happened?" "I don't know. I came out to take the trash and he was just lying there. I tried to wake him up, but he wouldn't respond. And did you touch him?" "What?" Yes, I checked for a pulse. And did anyone else approach him?" "No, I don't think so. People just walked by. No one stopped." The man's eyes narrowed. "Convenient. What's that supposed to mean?" "It means—" He stepped closer, his voice dropping low, "that a woman working minimum wage just happened to find the Prince of Carrier unconscious on a street corner. And now here we are." The words hit Clara like a slap. You think I did something to him? I think it's suspicious. I was trying to help." Heat flooded Clara's face. Anger mixed with hurt, mixed with shame. "I called you. Why would I call if I wanted to hurt him?" "Publicity, money, attention." The man shrugged. "Pick one." "That's insane." "Miss Evans, how do you know my name?" He tapped his phone. "Your call came from a registered number. We know exactly who you are." Clara felt sick. These people, whoever they were, had already looked into her life, her background, her address, everything. In the space of 15 minutes, she'd gone from nobody to suspect. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said quietly. "I just tried to help." "Your Majesty." One of the suited men called from the SUV. "The boy is stable. We should move." The king, she still couldn't quite believe that word, turned. His eyes found Clara's across the chaos of flashing lights and moving bodies. For a moment something flickered in his expression. Uncertainty, maybe, or recognition. Then it was gone. He climbed into the SUV without a word. The door slammed shut. Tires squealed against asphalt, and just like that they were gone. Clara stood alone in the street. Her uniform was dirty. Her knees were scraped and bleeding. Her hands still shook. She'd done the right thing. She knew she'd done the right thing. So why did she feel like she'd just made a terrible mistake? The walk back to her apartment took 20 minutes. Clara barely noticed. Her mind kept replaying the scene. The boy's pale lips, the king's terrified eyes, the guard's accusations. Did you touch him? Of course she'd touched him. What kind of person finds an unconscious child and doesn't check if he's breathing? But they'd looked at her like she was dangerous, like she'd planned the whole thing. Clara pushed through the door of her tiny studio apartment. Her roommate Nora looked up from the couch. "You look terrible," Nora said bluntly. "What happened?" Clara told her everything. The boy, the phone call, the king and his guards, the accusations. Nora's eyes grew wider with each sentence. "Wait," she held up a hand. "Back up. You're telling me you called a king, like an actual king?" "That's what they said." "From where?" "Africa. Caria, I think one of them mentioned." Nora grabbed her laptop and started typing. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Okay, let me just... Holy crap." "What?" Nora turned the screen around. A photograph filled the display. The same man from the street, but cleaned up for a formal portrait. He wore traditional African robes in deep blue and gold. A crown sat on his head. His expression was solemn and dignified. King Malik Okoye of Karia, the caption read, one of Africa's youngest and most progressive monarchs. Net worth estimated at $400 million. Clara sank onto the couch beside Nora. Oh my God. Yeah. Nora scrolled down. He's kind of a big deal. His country is small but rich. Oil money mostly. And look, she clicked on another tab. His wife died 3 years ago. Some kind of accident. He's been raising his son alone ever since. The boy, Cairo. Clara thought about how the king had held him, the raw fear in his voice, the way his hands had trembled. He was a father first, a king second. You saved a prince, Nora said softly. That's actually amazing. They think I hurt him. That's ridiculous. Is it? Clara pulled her knees to her chest. I'm a nobody. He's royalty. Why would they believe me? Because you're telling the truth. Clara wanted to believe that mattered, but she'd lived in the real world long enough to know better. Truth was nice. Power was what counted, and she had none. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Clara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over, every word, every look, every moment of suspicion in those guards' eyes. She kept thinking about the boy. Was he okay? Had he woken up? Did he remember collapsing on the street? Around 2 in the morning, her phone buzzed. Clara grabbed it, her heart racing. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her press the green button. Hello? Silence on the other end, then breathing, slow and measured. Miss Evans. She recognized the voice immediately, the guard with the scar. How did you get my number? We have your number. A statement, not an explanation. I'm calling to inform you that Prince Cairo is stable. He's resting comfortably. Relief washed over her. That's good. Thank you for telling me. We also reviewed security footage from the street. Clara's chest tightened. And? You're telling the truth. You didn't approach the boy until after he collapsed. No one else came near him. I told you that. Yes, you did. A pause. His Majesty asked me to call you, to thank you and to... The guard seemed to struggle with the next words. To apologize for the accusations. Clara didn't know what to say. An apology delivered through a middleman didn't feel like much of an apology at all. Is that everything? She asked. Yes. Good night, Miss Evans. He hung up before she could respond. Clara set the phone on her nightstand and rolled onto her side. An apology from a king, delivered by phone at 2 in the morning. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep, but all she could see was Cairo's small face and his father's terrified eyes. The next morning came too fast. Clara dragged herself to the diner at 6 a.m., her body protesting every step. Mr. Garth was already there, prepping for the breakfast rush. You look like hell, he said, without looking up. Thanks, boss. You hear about the excitement last night? Apparently some African prince collapsed on Maple Street. Clara's hand froze on the coffee pot. Really? Yeah. Police were all over the place. Black SUVs, the whole 9 yards. Mr. Garth finally looked at her. You didn't see anything? She should tell him. She should explain what happened, but something stopped her. No, Clara lied. I was out back. Didn't see a thing. Mr. Garth grunted and went back to his prep work. The morning passed in a blur of orders and coffee refills. Clara moved on autopilot, her mind elsewhere. Every time the door opened, she looked up, half expecting to see suited guards or police officers, but it was just the usual crowd, construction workers, office employees, retirees killing time, normal, safe. At noon, everything changed. The bell above the door chimed. Clara looked up from wiping down table 6, and her heart stopped. King Malik stood in the doorway of Joe's diner. He wasn't wearing a suit this time, just dark jeans, a crisp white shirt, and sunglasses that probably cost more than her car. But there was no mistaking him, the way he carried himself, the way people instinctively moved aside without realizing why. Power recognized power, even in a small-town diner. Their eyes met across the room. He removed his sunglasses slowly, deliberately. His expression was unreadable. Then he walked toward her. Every head in the diner turned to watch. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Clara's grip tightened on the dish rag in her hands. Her pulse hammered in her ears. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. Miss Evans, he said quietly, may I speak with you? Her mouth had gone completely dry. I'm working. I'll wait. That's not necessary. I insist. They stared at each other. Clara became acutely aware of her stained uniform, her frizzy hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. The coffee stain on her apron that wouldn't come out no matter how many times she washed it. She was a mess. And he was. Perfection. "Table 7 is open," she heard herself say. "I'll bring you some coffee. Thank you." He moved to the booth in the corner, the one by the window, the one where she could see him from everywhere in the diner. Mr. Garth appeared at her elbow. "Who the hell is that?" "A customer," Clara said tightly. "He looks familiar." "Lots of people look familiar, boss." She grabbed the coffee pot with shaking hands and walked to table 7. Malik watched her approach with those dark, intense eyes. She poured coffee into his cup without spilling a single drop, a small miracle. "Thank you," he said again. "You're welcome. Can I get you anything else?" "Sit with me." Clara nearly dropped the pot. I can't. I'm working. Please." The words seemed to cost him something. "Just for a moment." She glanced at Mr. Garth. He was watching them with narrowed eyes, but he didn't object. Clara slid into the booth across from Malik, her back ramrod straight. She kept her hands in her lap so he wouldn't see them shaking. "I came to thank you," Malik said quietly. "Properly this time. Not through my security team. You didn't have to come all the way here." "Yes, I did." He wrapped both hands around the coffee cup but didn't drink. "What you did for my son. Checking on him, calling for help, staying with him. That took courage and compassion. 2 things that are rare in this world." Clara's throat felt tight. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," his voice was firm. "They wouldn't. I watched the security footage. Dozens of people walked past him. You were the only one who stopped." "He's a child, of course I stopped." "Of course." Malik smiled slightly. "You say that like it's obvious. Like basic human decency is the default setting, but it's not. Not anymore. Maybe it never was." Clara didn't know what to say to that. She'd never thought of herself as particularly brave or compassionate. She'd just done what needed doing. "How is he?" she asked. "Your son. Is he okay?" "He will be. The doctors think he fainted from dehydration. He'd been playing outside most of the afternoon and didn't drink enough water." Malik's jaw tightened. "I should have been watching him more closely." "You can't watch him every second." "I'm his father. I should." The pain in his voice was raw and real. Clara recognized it. She'd heard that same tone from parents in the diner 100 times before. The guilt, the fear, the desperate need to keep their children safe from a world that didn't care. "You're being too hard on yourself," Clara said gently. "And you're being too kind." "Maybe." She managed a small smile. "But you came all the way here to apologize. The least I can do is accept it." Malik studied her face. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone seeking attention, perhaps, or money. But you're just—" He paused, searching for words. "You're just kind." Heat climbed Clara's cheeks. She looked down at the table. "My son wants to meet you," Malik said after a moment. "He keeps asking about the lady with the soft voice. I tried to explain that you're busy, that you have your own life, but—" He trailed off. "Would you consider visiting him? Just once. To let him say thank you." Every instinct Clara had screamed at her to say no. This was dangerous territory. Kings and princes and guards who looked at her like she was a criminal. But then she thought about the small boy lying on the sidewalk, his peaceful face, his thin wrist wrapped in gold. "Okay," she heard herself say. "I'll visit." Malik's expression softened. "Thank you. Truly." He pulled a business card from his pocket and slid it across the table. Heavy cardstock, gold lettering. "Call this number when your shift ends. My driver will bring you to the hotel. I can take a bus. Please." He stood, towering over the booth. "Let me do this one small thing. It's the least I can offer after everything you've done." Clara picked up the card. The weight of it surprised her. "Okay," she said again. Malik nodded once. Then he walked out of the diner without looking back. The moment he was gone, the entire restaurant erupted into whispered conversation. Clara felt every eye turn toward her. Mr. Garth hurried over. "Who was that?" "Just someone saying thank you." "Thank you for what?" "For doing my job, boss. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got tables to clear." She grabbed her dish rag and went back to work. But her hands didn't stop shaking for the rest of her shift. The hotel was nothing like Clara expected. She'd imagined something fancy but manageable. Nice furniture, clean carpet, maybe a chandelier in the lobby. What she got was opulence on a scale she'd never witnessed in person. The building stretched 30 stories into the sky. The lobby featured marble floors, towering columns, and actual artwork that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. People in expensive clothes moved through the space like they belonged there. Clara felt like an imposter. The driver, a quiet man who'd introduced himself simply as James, led her to a private elevator. He used a key card to activate it. The doors slid open with a soft chime. "Top floor," James said. "Someone will meet you there." Clara stepped into the elevator alone. Her reflection stared back at her from the polished walls. She'd changed out of her work uniform into her nicest jeans and a clean blue sweater. But standing here, surrounded by wealth she couldn't fathom, she felt shabby, small, out of place. The elevator climbed smoothly. When the doors opened, a woman was waiting. She was beautiful, tall and elegant, with dark skin and sharp cheekbones. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. She wore a grey suit that probably cost more than Clara made in a month. "Miss Evans." Her voice was cool and professional. "I'm Aisha, His Majesty's Chief of Staff. Please follow me." She turned and walked without waiting for a response. Clara hurried to keep up. The hallway was just as luxurious as the lobby. Thick carpet, tasteful artwork, soft lighting that made everything glow. Aisha stopped at a door and knocked twice. "Your Majesty, she's here." The door opened, and there was Malik, looking somehow more handsome than before. He'd changed into casual clothes, slacks and a burgundy sweater that brought out the warmth in his dark skin. When he smiled at her, Clara's stomach did a strange flip. "Clara, thank you for coming." It was the first time he'd used her first name. It sounded different in his accent, softer, almost musical. "Of course," she managed. "Cairo is in the bedroom. He's resting, but he's been waiting for you." Malik's smile turned fond. "Fair warning, he's excited, very excited." Clara followed him into the suite. Calling it a room would have been an insult. This was an entire apartment, living room, dining area, a kitchen that gleamed with stainless steel, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the entire city. "Wow," Clara breathed. "It's too much," Malik said quietly. "But it's secure, and privacy is—" He trailed off. "Important." He led her to a door on the far side of the suite, knocked gently. "Cairo? Someone's here to see you." A small voice answered from inside. "Really? Is it her?" "It is." The door flew open. Cairo stood in the doorway wearing pajamas covered in cartoon lions. His eyes were bright and alert. When he saw Clara, his entire face lit up like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "You came," he shouted and threw himself at her. Clara caught him on instinct, wrapping her arms around his small body. He hugged her with the fierce intensity only children possess. "Thank you, thank you, thank you," he said into her sweater. "Papa said you saved me. You saved my life. I just called for help, sweetie." "No." Cairo pulled back to look at her seriously. "Papa told me. You stayed with me. You made sure I was okay. You didn't leave." Clara's throat tightened. She glanced at Malik over the boy's head. He was watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. Soft, warm, almost vulnerable. "I'm glad you're okay," Clara said to Cairo. "Me too." He grabbed her hand and tugged. "Come see my room. I have so many toys and books. Do you like books? I love books. Papa reads to me every night before bed, even when he's tired. And oh, I have a turtle. His name is Flash. Do you want to meet Flash?" Clara laughed. "I would love to meet Flash." She let herself be pulled into Cairo's room, listening to him chatter about everything and nothing. Behind her, she felt Malik's eyes on her back. And for the first time since finding a boy on Maple Street, Clara thought maybe, just maybe, answering that call had been the right choice after all. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange blur. Clara's life split into two completely different worlds. In one world, she wore a grease-stained uniform and served coffee to construction workers at Joe's Diner. In the other, she stepped into a luxury suite and played games with a prince. It should have felt wrong, like she was living a lie, but somehow it felt right. Cairo had asked her to come back the day after their first meeting, then the day after that. Before Clara knew what was happening, she was visiting the hotel 3 or 4 times a week after her shifts ended. She'd tell herself it was just about the boy, that she was helping him feel better while he recovered. But that wasn't the whole truth. There was Malik, King Malik, who sat quietly in the corner and watched her play card games with his son, who brought them snacks and smiled when Cairo laughed, who asked Clara questions about her life like he genuinely cared about the answers. "What made you become a waitress?" he asked one evening. They were alone in the living room. Cairo had fallen asleep on the couch during a movie, his head resting on Clara's lap. Malik sat in the armchair across from them, nursing a cup of tea. "I didn't have a choice," Clara said honestly. "I needed money. The diner was hiring. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Do you enjoy it?" "Sometimes I like talking to the regulars, hearing their stories. making them smile. She ran her fingers absently through Cairo's soft hair. Most days it's just exhausting. But everyone needs to eat, right? So there's purpose in it. Malik studied her face. You find purpose in serving others? I guess so. That's rare. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. Most people I know only serve themselves. Clara looked up at him. Really looked at him. In the soft lamplight, with his guard down and his formal mask on, Malik looked younger, less like a king, more like a man who carried the weight of the world and was too proud to ask for help. Being a king must be lonely, she said. Malik's eyes widened slightly, like she'd surprised him. Yes, he admitted. It is. Does anyone ever tell you the truth? Or do they just tell you what you want to hear? The latter, mostly. A sad smile crossed his face. You, however, seem incapable of anything but honesty. It's refreshing. Terrifying sometimes, but refreshing. Clara felt heat climb her cheeks. She looked down at Cairo, using him as an excuse to break eye contact, but she could still feel Malik watching her, and her heart beat just a little bit faster. The dinner invitation came on a Tuesday. Aisha delivered it personally, her expression as cool and professional as always. His Majesty requests your presence at a formal dinner tomorrow evening, she said, handing Clara a heavy cream envelope. 7 p.m. Dress code is formal. Clara stared at the invitation like it might bite her. I don't think several members of the Karahan diplomatic delegation will be in attendance. His Majesty wishes to thank you publicly for your assistance with Prince Cairo. That's really not necessary. Nevertheless, Aisha's tone made it clear this wasn't a request. Our car will collect you at 6:30. Please be ready. She left before Clara could protest further. That night, Clara lay in bed and stared at the invitation. Formal dinner. Diplomats. The kind of people who probably had more money in their bank accounts than she'd earn in her entire lifetime. You have to go, Nora said from her bed across the room. When else are you going to get invited to a fancy dinner with a king? I don't have anything to wear, so we'll find something. There's that consignment shop on 5th Street. We'll make it work. I don't belong there, Nora. Says who? Nora rolled over to face her. You saved that kid's life. You've been spending time with him for weeks. You belong there just as much as anyone else. Clara wanted to believe that, but doubt gnawed at her stomach. She didn't belong in Malik's world. She was just a temporary visitor, a curiosity. Eventually he'd go back to Caria with his son, and she'd go back to serving coffee. That was reality. Everything else was just a beautiful dream. The dress Nora found was simple but elegant. Navy blue, knee-length, fitted at the waist. It cost $40, which was more than Clara wanted to spend. But Nora insisted. You're having dinner with a king, she said firmly. You're not wearing your Target clearance rack special. Clara had to admit, the dress looked good. It made her look older, more sophisticated, like someone who might actually belong at a formal dinner. The car arrived at exactly 6:30. James nodded at her politely as he held the door open. You look very nice, Miss Evans. Thank you, James. The drive to the hotel felt too short. Clara's palms were sweaty. Her heart raced. She tried to calm herself by taking deep breaths, but it didn't help. When she stepped into the private dining room, she almost turned around and ran. The space was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, white linen tablecloths, fresh flowers everywhere. About 20 people stood around talking in small groups, all of them dressed in expensive suits and gowns. Clara had never felt more out of place in her entire life. Clara! Cairo appeared at her side, looking adorable in a tiny suit and tie. He grabbed her hand and pulled her into the room. You came. I told Papa you'd come. Look, they made my favorite dessert. Chocolate cake, 3 layers. His excitement made her smile despite her nerves. That sounds delicious. Miss Evans. Malik's voice cut through the chatter. Everyone turned to look. He crossed the room toward her, commanding attention without trying. He wore a traditional Karahan robe in deep emerald green with gold embroidery. A simple crown sat on his head. He looked every inch the king, and Clara felt every inch the waitress. You look beautiful, Malik said quietly when he reached her. Thank you. You look... She gestured vaguely at his outfit. Words failed her. Overdressed? He smiled slightly. State dinners require traditional attire. I'm afraid I have no choice. You look like a king. I am a king. Right, of course. Sorry. His smile widened. Don't apologize. I appreciate the reminder that I'm just a man first. Before Clara could respond, Aisha appeared with a tall man in a grey suit. Your Majesty, Minister Okafor would like to speak with you about the trade agreement. Malik's expression shifted. The warmth disappeared behind a professional mask. Of course. Clara, please excuse me. Cairo will show you to your seat. He walked away, immediately surrounded by diplomats seeking his attention. Clara watched him go, feeling a strange sense of loss. Cairo tugged her hand. Come on. You're sitting next to me and Papa. Dinner was an exercise in discomfort. Clara sat between Cairo and an older woman who introduced herself as Minister Adeyemi. The woman was polite but distant, making it clear through her tone that Clara didn't belong. The food was incredible. Course after course of dishes Clara couldn't pronounce. Everything tasted amazing, but she was too nervous to enjoy it. Conversations flowed around her. Politics, economics, trade agreements, things she didn't understand and couldn't contribute to. She stayed quiet, smiled when appropriate, tried to be invisible. Then Minister Okafor spoke. He was seated across the table from Clara, older, round-faced. His eyes were sharp and calculating. So, Miss Evans, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, His Majesty tells us you work at a diner. Clara's stomach dropped. Yes, sir. How quaint. His smile didn't reach his eyes. And what is it you do there? Serve coffee? Among other things, yes. Fascinating. He turned to the woman beside him. We don't have diners in Carrier, do we? Such an American concept. Fast food for fast people. Laughter rippled around the table. Clara felt her face burn. Minister Okafor. Malik's voice cut through the laughter like a knife. Everyone fell silent. Is there a point to your questions? Malik asked coldly. No, Your Majesty. Simply making conversation. Your conversation sounds remarkably like mockery. Malik set down his fork carefully. Miss Evans saved my son's life while dozens of people with more money and status, walked past without stopping. Her occupation is irrelevant. Her character is what matters. The silence that followed was absolute. Minister Okafor's smile vanished. Of course, Your Majesty. I meant no offense. Then perhaps you should choose your words more carefully. Malik turned to Clara. The hardness in his expression melted away. Would you like some air? The balcony offers an excellent view. Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. They stood together. Every eye in the room tracked their movement. Clara felt like a bug under a microscope. Malik placed his hand on the small of her back and guided her toward the glass doors. His touch was warm and steady, protective. The balcony overlooked the city. Lights stretched out in every direction, twinkling like fallen stars. Clara gripped the railing and took deep breaths. The cool air helped. So did the distance from all those judging eyes. I'm sorry, Malik said quietly behind her. Minister Okafor can be difficult. He was just saying what everyone else was thinking. Which is, Clara turned to face him, that I don't belong here, that I'm a waitress who got lucky, that I'm not good enough to sit at your table. That's not what I think. You're the only one. Malik moved closer, close enough that Clara could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, close enough that her heart started racing again. You want to know what I think? He asked softly. What? I think you're the most genuine person I've met in years. I think you have more courage in your little finger than most of those people have in their entire bodies. I think, he paused, seeming to struggle with the words. I think you remind me what truth sounds like. Clara stared at him. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. Why? She whispered. Why what? Why do you care what I think? Why defend me? Why invite me here in the first place? I'm nobody. You're everything. This doesn't make sense. Malik was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself. Not a king, not a diplomat, just Malik. He smiled sadly. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? Clara's breath caught. They stood there on the balcony, the city lights dancing below them, the sound of the dinner party muffled behind glass. Clara felt like they were the only two people in the world. Malik reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers gentle. You're not nobody, Clara, he said. You're extraordinary, and The glass door slid open with a sharp sound. Aisha stepped out, her expression carefully neutral. Your Majesty, forgive the interruption. You have a phone call from the Prime Minister. He says it's urgent. The moment shattered. Malik's hand dropped. He stepped back, the professional mask sliding into place. Of course. Tell him I'll be right there. He turned to Clara. I apologize. Duty calls. It's fine. I should probably go anyway. James will drive you home. I can take a bus. Please. His eyes held hers. Let me do this. Clara nodded. Malik walked back inside, already pulling his phone from his pocket. Within seconds, he was deep in conversation with someone on the other end, speaking rapid Karyahan. Clara watched him go. The warmth from his touch still lingered on her skin. "What are you doing?" she asked herself. "This isn't real, this can't be real." But it felt real, and that terrified her. The gossip started the next morning. Clara arrived at the diner to find Mr. Garth looking at his phone with a frown. "You want to explain this?" He turned the screen toward her. It was a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. Clara and Malik on the balcony, his hand touching her face, the two of them standing close enough to kiss. Below the photo, a headline, "Mystery woman gets close to visiting African king, Clara's blood turned to ice." "Where did you get that?" "It's all over social media. Some tabloid site posted it an hour ago. Already has 50,000 shares. Mr. Garth set down his phone. "Is that you?" "I can explain. Are you involved with that man?" "No, it's not like that. His son, the boy I helped. I've been visiting him and getting cozy with his father." "We're not cozy, we're just—" Clara struggled to find words. "We're friends," Mr. Garth snorted. "Friends, right. Look, Clara, I like you. You're a good worker, but I can't have this kind of attention on my diner. It's bad for business." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe you should take some time off, until this blows over." The words hit Clara like a punch to the gut. "You're firing me. I'm giving you time off." "Same thing." Mr. Garth had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, I really am, but I've got a business to run. I can't have reporters and cameras showing up every day." Clara yanked off her apron. Her hands shook with anger and humiliation. "Fine, I'll save you the trouble." "Clara!" "It's fine, Mr. Garth. Really. Wouldn't want to damage your reputation." She walked out without looking back. The walk home took forever. Clara's mind spun in circles. Someone had taken that photo. Someone had sold it to the tabloids. Someone had turned a private moment into public entertainment. Her phone buzzed constantly. Texts from Nora, missed calls from numbers she didn't recognize, even a voicemail from a reporter asking for a comment. Clara turned off her phone and kept walking. When she finally reached her apartment, Nora was waiting. "I saw," Nora said simply. Clara collapsed onto the couch. "I got fired." "Oh, honey." Nora sat beside her and pulled her into a hug. "I'm so sorry. I didn't do anything wrong." "I know. We were just talking, that's all, just talking." "I know." But the words felt hollow, because Clara knew the truth. It hadn't been just talking. Not really. Something was happening between her and Malik. Something dangerous and confusing and completely impossible. And now the whole world was watching. Clara ignored her phone for 2 days. She stayed in her apartment wearing pajamas and eating cereal for every meal. Nora tried to cheer her up with movies and ice cream, but nothing helped. On the 3rd day, someone knocked on the door. Clara almost didn't answer, but the knocking continued, persistent, urgent. She opened the door. Aisha stood in the hallway, looking as composed as ever despite climbing 3 flights of stairs. "Miss Evans, may I come in?" Clara stepped aside wordlessly. Aisha entered the small apartment and glanced around. If she had any opinions about the cramped space or second-hand furniture, she kept them to herself. "His Majesty asked me to come," Aisha said. "He's been trying to reach you. My phone is off." "I noticed." Aisha pulled an envelope from her purse. "This is for you." Clara took it carefully. Inside was a check. She looked at the amount and nearly dropped it. "I can't accept this. His Majesty insists. He's aware you lost your job because of the photograph. He wants to help." "I don't want his money." "Then what do you want, Miss Evans?" Clara stared at Aisha. "Why are you here, really?" Aisha was quiet for a moment. Then she sighed. "Because he's miserable. Because he won't eat or sleep or focus on anything except reaching you. Because I've worked for King Malik for 5 years and I've never seen him like this." "Like what?" "Like he cares." Aisha met her eyes. "His Majesty has had a difficult life, Miss Evans. He lost his wife. He raises his son alone. He carries the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders. He trusts no one, loves no one, until now." Clara's heart stuttered. "He doesn't love me, doesn't he?" Aisha raised an eyebrow. "Then why did he give a press conference this morning defending you to the entire world? Why did he tell reporters that you're a hero who saved his son? Why did he say your name with such—" She paused. "Such tenderness? He gave a press conference? Check the news. It's everywhere." Aisha moved toward the door, but she paused with her hand on the knob. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I judged you when we first met. I thought you were opportunistic, looking for attention or money. But I was wrong. You genuinely care about Cairo, and I think you care about His Majesty too. She left before Clara could respond. Clara sat alone in her apartment, holding the check and trying to process everything. Malik had defended her, publicly, to the whole world. And she'd ignored his calls for 3 days. Clara grabbed her phone and turned it on. Dozens of messages loaded immediately. Most were from numbers she didn't know, but 3 were from a number she recognized. Malik, please answer. I need to know you're all right. Malik, I'm sorry about the photograph. I never meant for this to happen. Malik, Clara, please. Her finger hovered over his name. Then she pressed call. He answered on the first ring. Clara. His voice was rough with relief. Thank God. Are you all right? I'm fine. I needed some time. I understand. The photograph was a violation of your privacy. I've hired people to find out who took it. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. He paused. Cairo misses you. He keeps asking when you'll visit again. Clara closed her eyes. Malik, I don't think I should come back. Silence stretched between them. Why? He finally asked. Because this is getting complicated. Because people are watching. Because She took a shaky breath. Because I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Neither do I, Malik admitted quietly. But I know I don't want you to disappear from our lives. Cairo needs you, and He stopped, started again. Please, come tomorrow. Let us see you one more time before we return to Cairo. You're leaving? In 3 days. Our visa is expiring. 3 days. That was all the time they had left. Clara thought about Cairo's smile, about the way Malik looked at her like she mattered, about how she felt more alive in the past few weeks than she had in years. Okay, she whispered. I'll come tomorrow. Thank you. The relief in his voice was palpable. There's somewhere I'd like to take you, both of you. Somewhere private. Somewhere we can just be. Where? Do you trust me? It was a loaded question. Trust a king. Trust someone from a completely different world. But Clara thought about the fear in his eyes when he'd found Cairo, the gentleness in his touch, the way he'd defended her to people who mocked her. Yes, she said, I trust you. The beach was 2 hours north of the city. Malik had rented the entire stretch of coast for the day. Private, secluded, just sand and water and sky. Clara stepped out of the car and breathed in the salt air. For the first time in days, she felt like she could breathe. The ocean! Cairo shrieked. He was already running toward the water, his small feet kicking up sand. Cairo, wait! Malik called after him, but he was laughing, really laughing. The sound was beautiful. Clara watched father and son race toward the waves. Malik caught Cairo and lifted him high in the air, spinning him around. The boy's laughter rang out like music. She pulled out her phone to take a picture, then stopped. No phones. No cameras. No proof this day ever happened, just memories. Come on, Cairo shouted at her. Come play. Clara kicked off her shoes and ran toward them. They spent hours on that beach, building sandcastles, collecting shells, splashing in the shallow waves. Cairo talked non-stop, telling Clara about everything from his favorite books to his pet turtle to the big garden at the palace. Malik was different here, relaxed, young. He smiled more in one afternoon than Clara had seen in all the weeks before. As the sun began to set, Cairo fell asleep on a blanket, exhausted and happy. Clara and Malik sat beside him, watching the sky turn orange and pink and purple. Thank you for this, Clara said softly. Thank you for coming. I know it's been difficult. It's been complicated. She drew patterns in the sand with her finger. But worth it. Getting to know Cairo. Getting to know you. Malik was quiet for a long moment. When I lost my wife, I promised myself I'd never let anyone close again. It hurt too much. The risk felt too great. Clara looked at him. His profile was strong and beautiful against the fading light. But you've reminded me what it feels like to be human, he continued. To laugh, to let my guard down, to trust. He turned to face her. I haven't felt peace in years, Clara. Not until you. Her heart hammered in her chest. Malik, I know this is complicated. I know our lives are impossible to reconcile, but I needed you to know. He reached for her hand. You matter. To me. To Cairo. You matter. Clara's eyes burned with tears. You matter to me, too. Malik lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. A gesture of respect, of affection, of something deeper neither of them dared name. Then he pulled back, creating distance. They sat together as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Not touching, not speaking, just being. That night, Everything fell apart. Clara was back in her apartment when Malik called. His voice was tight with tension. "I need to see you now, please." "What's wrong?" "I can't explain over the phone. James is on his way to get you." Fear gripped her chest. "Is Cairo okay?" "He's fine. Please, Clara, just come." The drive to the hotel felt like it took hours. When Clara finally reached the suite, Malik was pacing. His phone was pressed to his ear, and he was speaking rapidly in Karyahan. His expression was dark. He hung up when he saw her. "What happened?" Clara asked. "My royal council. They've issued an ultimatum." He ran a hand over his face. "They say my association with you is damaging the monarchy, that I'm making the kingdom look weak. They're threatening political consequences if I don't end our friendship." The word stung. Is that what this was? Friendship? "So, end it," Clara said quietly. "What? End it. Go home. Forget about me. You have responsibilities. A country, a son. I'm just a waitress from nowhere. I'm not worth sacrificing all that." "Don't say that. It's true." "It's not." Malik stepped closer. "You're worth more than all of them combined. Don't you see that?" "No, I don't." Clara's voice broke. "I don't see anything except that this was doomed from the start. You're a king. I'm nobody. This was never going to work. I don't care about the politics. You should care. You have a duty. To your people. To your son." "And what about my duty to myself?" Malik's eyes blazed. "What about what I want? Sometimes what we want doesn't matter." They stared at each other across the room. The distance between them felt like an ocean. "I'm sending you away," Malik said finally. His voice was flat, empty. "Not because I want to, but because I need to protect you." "From what?" "From me. From my world. From people who will tear you apart because you dared to be kind." He turned away. "James will take you home. Please don't come back." The words shattered something inside Clara's chest. "Fine," she whispered, "if that's what you want." "It's not what I want. It's what's necessary." Clara walked toward the door. Her legs felt like lead. Her vision blurred with tears. She paused with her hand on the doorknob. "I'm sorry," she said without turning around. "I'm sorry I answered that call. I'm sorry I met you. I'm sorry I let myself—" Her voice broke completely. "I'm just sorry." She left before he could respond. The rain started as James drove her home. Clara pressed her forehead against the cold window and let the tears come. She'd known this would happen. She'd known it from the beginning. Love stories between waitresses and kings only existed in fairy tales. Real life was messier, crueler. Real life broke your heart and left you standing in the rain, whispering apologies to the wind. The new cafe was smaller than Joe's diner, quieter. The kind of place where people came to read books and work on laptops, not to gossip about their neighbors. Clara liked it that way. She'd been working at Rosie's cafe for 5 days. The owner, an older woman with kind eyes and silver hair, had hired her without asking too many questions. Clara was grateful. She needed normal. She needed routine. She needed something to focus on, besides the hollow ache in her chest. "Table 4 needs a refill," Rosie called from behind the counter. Clara grabbed the coffee pot and crossed the room. Smile, pour, thank the customer, move to the next table, repeat. It was easy, mechanical. She could do it without thinking, and thinking was dangerous, because when she thought, she remembered. Malik's hand touching her face. Cairo's laughter on the beach. The way she'd felt seen for the first time in her life. The way it had all fallen apart. "You okay, honey?" Rosie asked during a lull. "You seem far away." "I'm fine. You've said that every day this week. Still don't believe you." Clara managed a weak smile. "I'm working on fine. Does that count?" "It's a start." Rosie patted her hand. "But if you need to talk, I'm here." "Thank you." Clara went back to work, but Rosie's kindness made her eyes sting. She'd gotten so used to suspicion and judgment. Simple compassion felt foreign now. That night she walked home through streets that felt emptier than before. Nora was waiting with takeout and a movie queued up on the laptop. "Chinese food and a terrible rom-com," Nora announced. "Doctor's orders." "I'm not sick. You're heartbroken." "Same thing." Nora shoved a container of lo mein into Clara's hands. "Eat. Watch. Try to remember that life goes on." Clara picked at her food while the movie played, but she wasn't really watching. Her mind was somewhere else entirely. They were gone by now. Malik and Cairo. Back to Karya. Back to their real lives. She wondered if they thought about her. Then she tried to stop wondering. Sleep was difficult. Clara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every look, every moment she'd felt something shift between her and Malik. I haven't felt peace in years. Not until you. His words haunted her. Because she'd felt it too. That rare, precious thing called peace. And now it was gone, leaving her more restless than before. Around 3 in the morning she gave up and checked her phone. Social media was a mistake. The photo of her and Malik was still everywhere. Comments ranged from supportive to vicious. People she'd never met had opinions about her life, her choices, her worth. Gold digger. He's too good for her. She probably planned the whole thing. Clara closed the app, but the words lingered. Maybe they were right. Maybe she'd been foolish to think someone like her could matter to someone like him. She turned off her phone and pulled the blanket over her head. Tomorrow would be better. It had to be, but tomorrow wasn't better. Clara woke up to Nora shaking her shoulder urgently. You need to see this. See what? Nora held up her phone. A video was playing, a press conference. And there, standing behind a podium with microphones pointed at him, was Malik. Clara's heart stopped. He looked tired. His eyes had dark circles beneath them, but he stood straight and proud, every inch the king. I'm here to address the rumors and speculation, Malik said to the cameras. His voice was strong, clear. Miss Clara Evans saved my son's life when he collapsed on a street in this town. While dozens of people walked past, she stopped. She helped. She stayed with him until I arrived. The reporters started shouting questions. Malik held up a hand. I'm not finished. Miss Evans has been subjected to intense scrutiny and judgment simply for showing compassion. She's lost her job, her privacy, her peace, and none of that is acceptable. He paused, his jaw tightening. I invited her into our lives because my son asked to meet her, because she brought light into a dark time, because she reminded us both what kindness looks like. Clara's hands trembled. Nora squeezed her shoulder. The photograph that circulated was taken without consent, Malik continued. It violated Miss Evans's privacy and mine. But I won't apologize for the moment it captured. I won't apologize for caring about someone who deserves to be cared about. A reporter shouted something Clara couldn't hear. Malik's expression hardened. My personal life is not up for debate. What I will say is this. Miss Clara Evans is a hero. She's brave. She's genuine. And she's worth more than all the empty titles and political games in the world combined. The video ended. Clara sat frozen, the phone still playing in Nora's hand. He just told the entire world he cares about you, Nora whispered. Do you know what that means? Clara couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, because she knew exactly what it meant, and she didn't know what to do about it. The morning passed in a blur. Clara went to work on autopilot, poured coffee, took orders, smiled at customers, but her mind was miles away. Malik had defended her, publicly, despite the consequences, despite what his counsel wanted, despite everything. Why? The question circled endlessly in her head. Around noon, Rosie touched her arm. Honey, you're shaking. Why don't you take a break? I'm okay. You're not. Go sit down. I'll handle the front. Clara retreated to the small break room and sat with her head in her hands. This was too much, too big, too impossible. She was just a waitress, just a normal girl trying to pay rent and survive. She didn't know how to handle kings and press conferences and royal councils. The bell above the cafe door chimed. Clara heard it through the break room wall, heard the sudden silence that followed, heard Rosie's surprised voice. Can I help you? I'm looking for Clara Evans. Clara's head snapped up. That voice, deep, accented, unmistakable. She stood on shaking legs and pushed through the door. The cafe had gone completely silent. Every customer stared at the entrance. And there, standing in the doorway like something out of a dream, was Malik. He wasn't alone. Cairo stood beside him, small hand clutched in his father's. Aisha waited behind them, her expression unreadable. But Clara only saw Malik. Their eyes met across the room. The world fell away. Then Cairo spotted her. Clara! His face lit up like the sun. He yanked his hand free and ran. Clara dropped to her knees just in time to catch him. He crashed into her arms, hugging her so tight she could barely breathe. You came back, Cairo said into her shoulder. Papa said we had to find you. He said we couldn't leave without seeing you. He said, Cairo? Malik's voice was gentle. Let her breathe. The boy pulled back, grinning. I missed you so much. We're not leaving. Well, we are, but not without you. Papa has a plan. It's a good plan. Tell her, Papa. Malik crossed the cafe slowly. Every eye tracked his movement. But he didn't seem to notice anyone except Clara. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his face, the determination. I was wrong, he said quietly. Sending you away was wrong. Letting fear and politics control my choices was wrong. I've spent 3 days trying to convince myself it was the right decision, and I can't, because it wasn't. Clara's throat felt tight. Malik, let me finish, please. He took a breath. I'm a king. I have responsibilities and duties I can't ignore, but I'm also a man, a father, and I deserve to choose happiness. Cairo deserves to have light in his life. We both do. Your council can adjust. His voice was firm. I've been adjusting my entire life to meet their expectations, to be the king they want. But what about what I want? What about what makes me a better king, a better father? Tears stung Clara's eyes. What are you saying? Malik stepped closer, close enough to touch, but he didn't. Not yet. I'm saying you make us better. Both of us. Cairo smiles more when you're around. I breathe easier. We're happier. And I've realized that happiness matters. Not just duty, not just politics, but actual joy. His eyes held hers. You bring us joy, Clara. A tear slipped down her cheek. Don't say you're just a waitress. Don't diminish yourself that way. His voice was fierce. You're Clara. You're brave and kind and honest. You care about people even when it costs you. You saved my son. You saved me too, in a way. How? You reminded me I'm human. A small smile touched his lips. That's no small gift. Clara glanced around the cafe. Everyone was watching. Rosie had tears in her eyes. Even Aisha looked softer than usual. What do you want from me? Clara asked softly. Everything, Malik admitted. But I'll settle for time. Come to Caria, not as a servant, as a guest. Let us show you our world. Let Cairo show you his favorite places. Let me, he paused, let me prove that this is real. That, what I feel, is real. Clara's heart hammered. You're asking me to go to Africa with you? Yes. To a palace? Yes. To live with royalty, as my honored guest. Malik finally reached for her hand. His fingers were warm and steady. I know it's frightening. I know you have a life here, but I'm asking you to take a chance on me, on us, on the possibility that sometimes fairy tales are real. Cairo tugged on Clara's other hand. Please say yes, please. Papa promised I could show you my turtle, and the gardens, and the beach by our house, please. Clara looked down at the boy's hopeful face, then up at Malik's. In his eyes, she saw fear, hope, vulnerability, a king asking her to trust him, and she realized something important. She'd been afraid this whole time, afraid of not being enough, afraid of being hurt, afraid of wanting something she couldn't have. But maybe brave wasn't about not being afraid. Maybe it was about choosing hope anyway. Okay, she whispered. Malik's eyes widened. Okay, I'll come just for a visit, to see if this could work. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. He lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Thank you, he said. You won't regret this. I might. Then I'll spend every day making sure you don't. Cairo whooped and threw his arms around both of them. Clara laughed through her tears. Malik pulled them both close, his arms strong and safe. And in that moment, surrounded by strangers in a tiny cafe, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt like she was exactly where she belonged. The next 24 hours were chaos. Clara gave notice at Rosie's. The older woman hugged her tight and whispered, "Go find your happiness, honey." Nora helped her pack, crying and laughing at the same time. "You're going to live in a palace, an actual palace. This is insane. I know. You have to call me every day. I will. And take pictures. I promise." Nora grabbed her hands. "Be careful, okay? Guard your heart. Not everyone in that world will be happy you're there." Clara thought about the dinner, Minister Okafor's mocking tone, the cold looks from diplomats. "I know," she said quietly, "but I have to try. I know you do." Nora pulled her into another hug. "I'm proud of you." The private plane was unlike anything Clara had ever seen. Cream leather seats, mahogany tables, a bedroom in the back, windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. "This is how you travel?" she asked Malik. "Usually." He smiled slightly. "Too much?" "Way too much. Get comfortable. It's a long flight." Clara settled into a seat by the window. Cairo immediately climbed into the seat beside her, chattering about everything she'd see in Caria. "The palace has 100 rooms," he said excitedly. "Maybe more. I haven't counted all of them. And there's a garden with flowers as tall as Papa. And the ocean is so blue, Clara. So blue." Malik sat across from them, watching with soft eyes. As the plane took off, Clara pressed her face to the window. The city fell away beneath them. The world grew smaller. She was really doing this, leaving everything she knew, flying halfway across the world with a king and his son. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was the craziest thing she'd ever done. Cairo eventually fell asleep, his head resting on Clara's shoulder. She stroked his hair absently, watching clouds drift past the window. "Thank you," Malik said softly. Clara looked at him. "For what?" "For taking this leap. I know what I'm asking. The scrutiny, the pressure, the complete change in your life. I'm not going to lie and say I'm not scared. Good. You should be. This won't be easy. Then why ask me?" Malik was quiet for a moment. "Because some things are worth the difficulty. Because I've learned that running from happiness doesn't make you safer. It just makes you lonely." He met her eyes. "And I'm tired of being lonely. What if I can't do this? What if I don't fit? You already fit. With us. With me." He reached across the aisle and took her hand. "The rest will come." Clara wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that love was enough, that a waitress from nowhere could find a home in a palace, that fairy tales sometimes came true. "Tell me about Caria," she said. "Tell me what I'm flying toward." Malik's face softened, and for the rest of the flight, he painted pictures with words. Stories of his homeland, the markets bursting with color and music, the beaches where the sand was white as sugar, the mountains in the north where snow fell even in summer. He talked about his people, their resilience, their joy, their struggles, and Clara listened, watching his face come alive with love for his country. This was what she'd been missing her whole life, someone who looked at the world with wonder, someone who believed in beauty despite the darkness, someone who made her want to be braver than she was. The sun was setting when the plane began its descent. Clara pressed her face to the window. Below them, a city sparkled like scattered jewels. White buildings with red roofs, streets lined with palm trees, and beyond it all, the ocean, vast and blue and endless. "Welcome to Caria," Malik said softly. Clara's breath caught. It looked like a painting, like a dream, like home. The palace took Clara's breath away. It sat on a hill overlooking the ocean, all white stone and arched windows. Gardens surrounded it, bursting with flowers she'd never seen before. Fountains sparkled in the late afternoon sun. "This is where you live," Clara breathed. "This is where we live," Malik corrected gently. "For now, at least." A small army of staff waited at the entrance. They bowed as Malik passed. He greeted each by name, asking about their families and lives. A king who knew his servants, who cared about them. Clara fell a little bit more in love with him right then. Aisha showed her to a suite of rooms on the second floor. "This will be yours during your stay. If you need anything, just call." Clara stepped inside and nearly fainted. The bedroom was bigger than her entire apartment back home. A massive four-poster bed dominated the space. French doors opened onto a balcony with a view of the ocean. Fresh flowers sat on the dresser. "This is too much," Clara whispered. "His Majesty insisted." Aisha almost smiled. "Get some rest. Dinner is at 7. Dress code is casual." She left Clara alone. Clara walked onto the balcony and gripped the railing. The ocean stretched out before her, endless and beautiful. The air smelled like salt and flowers. Birds called in the distance. This was real. She was really here. In Africa, in a palace, with a king who looked at her like she hung the moon. Clara pulled out her phone and called Nora. "I'm here," she said when Nora answered. "You're not going to believe this place. Tell me everything." So Clara did. She described the plane, the palace, the view. She talked until her voice went hoarse. "It sounds like a dream," Nora said softly. "It feels like one." "But," Clara bit her lip, "but what if I wake up? Then you'll have beautiful memories. But Clara, I think this is real. I think he really cares about you. So stop waiting for it to fall apart and just enjoy it." After they hung up, Clara stood on the balcony until the sun touched the horizon. The sky turned orange and pink and purple, just like the beach where she and Malik had watched the sunset together. A knock on the door pulled her inside. Cairo stood in the hallway, bouncing on his toes. "It's time for dinner. Come on, Cook made your favorite." "My favorite. Papa told her about the chocolate cake you liked. She made one. A big one." Clara's heart squeezed. Malik had remembered. Such a small thing, but it meant everything. Dinner was served on the terrace, just the three of them. No diplomats, no staff, no pressure. They ate pasta and fresh bread, while Cairo talked non-stop about everything he wanted to show Clara. Malik watched them both with quiet contentment. "Tomorrow," he said when Cairo finally paused to breathe, "we'll go to the market. Just us. No security, no formality." "You can do that?" Clara asked. "Go out without guards?" "Not officially, but I do it anyway." He smiled. "Some things are worth the risk." After dinner, Cairo hugged Clara goodnight and disappeared with a nanny. Malik walked Clara back to her suite, moving slowly through the lamplit halls. "Thank you for coming," he said when they reached her door. "I know it wasn't an easy choice. It was terrifying. But you did it anyway, that's courage." Clara laughed softly. "Or stupidity. Never that." Malik reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was achingly familiar. "Get some rest. Tomorrow starts our adventure." "Adventure?" "Showing you that this could be your home, if you want it to be." He stepped back before Clara could respond, before she could ask what he meant, before she could name the feeling blooming in her chest. "Good night, Clara." "Good night, Malik." She watched him walk away, his footsteps echoing in the quiet hall. Then she went inside and closed the door. Her reflection stared back at her from the massive mirror. A waitress from nowhere standing in a palace on the other side of the world. How had this become her life? Clara changed into pajamas and crawled into the enormous bed. The sheets were soft as clouds, the pillows perfect. But she barely noticed, because all she could think about was Malik's hand brushing her hair, his eyes holding hers, the way he'd said, "If you want it to be," like he was offering her the world. Maybe he was, and maybe, just maybe, she was brave enough to take it. Clara woke to sunlight streaming through the balcony doors. For a moment she didn't remember where she was. The room was too big, the bed too soft. The air smelled different, salt and flowers and something else she couldn't name. Then it all came rushing back. Caria, the palace, Malik. She sat up slowly, her heart racing. This was real. She was really here. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Clara?" A young woman's voice came through the door. "His Majesty asked me to bring you breakfast." Clara wrapped herself in the robe hanging by the bed. "Come in." A girl about Clara's age entered with a tray. She set it on the small table by the balcony and smiled shyly. "I'm Amara," she said. "I'll be helping you during your stay. If you need anything at all, just ask." "Thank you, that's very kind. His Majesty said you prefer simple food, so I brought fruit, bread and coffee. American coffee, not our local blend." Amara's smile widened. He was very specific about that. Warmth spread through Clara's chest. More small kindnesses. More proof that Malik was paying attention. After Amara left, Clara ate on the balcony. The view was breathtaking. Rolling gardens. The city beyond. The ocean sparkling in the morning sun. She could get used to this. The thought scared her, because getting used to something meant it would hurt more when it ended, and this had to end eventually. Didn't it? Another knock. This time Cairo's voice. "Clara, are you awake? Papa says we're leaving in 20 minutes. Clara laughed. "I'll be ready." She dressed quickly in jeans and a simple blouse. Nothing fancy, just herself. When she opened the door, Cairo was waiting with barely contained excitement. "We're going to the market. Papa never takes me without guards, but today he said we're going alone." "Well, not alone. You're coming. But no security. Isn't that exciting?" Clara took his offered hand. "Very exciting." Malik waited in the courtyard. He wore jeans and a plain white shirt. Without his formal robes and crown, he looked younger, more approachable, more like just a man instead of a king. His face lit up when he saw her. "Ready?" "As I'll ever be." They took a small car, not the SUVs with tinted windows, just a normal sedan. Malik drove himself, which surprised Clara. "You know how to drive?" she teased. "I do have some skills beyond signing papers and attending ceremonies." He glanced at her with a smile, though admittedly I don't get to drive often enough. The city was beautiful. White buildings with colorful shutters, streets lined with trees, people walking and laughing and living their lives. It looked nothing like the Africa Clara had seen in documentaries. This was vibrant, modern, alive. "It's not what you expected," Malik said, reading her expression. "No, I mean, I don't know what I expected. But this is wonderful. We have our struggles, poverty in some regions, political tensions, but we're also thriving, growing. My grandfather brought oil money to Caria. My father used it to build infrastructure. I'm trying to invest in education and healthcare." He paused. "It's slow work, but it matters." Clara heard the pride in his voice. the love for his country. It made her see him differently, not just as a man or a king, but as a leader who genuinely cared. The market was an explosion of color and sound. Vendors sold everything imaginable. Fresh fruit piled in pyramids, fabric in every shade, handmade jewelry, carved wooden masks, spices that made Clara's eyes water. Cairo dragged her from stall to stall, pointing out his favorite things. Malik followed, relaxed and smiling. People recognized him. Clara saw it in their eyes, but no one swarmed, no one shouted. They just nodded respectfully and went about their business. "They know you're here," Clara said quietly. "They always do, but they also know I need space sometimes. They're kind enough to give it to me." At a fruit stand, an elderly woman called out to Malik in Karihan. He responded in the same language, his tone warm and friendly. The woman laughed and handed him a mango. "She says the fruit is sweetest today," Malik translated, "and she wants to know who the beautiful woman is." Clara's cheeks heated. "What did you tell her?" "That you're a friend, someone very special." The woman said something else, gesturing between them with a knowing smile. Malik's ears turned slightly red. "She says, we look good together." "Oh." Clara didn't know what else to say. They bought mangoes and kept walking. Cairo ran ahead, examining everything with boundless curiosity. "He's happy here," Clara observed. "He loves the market. His mother used to bring him before—" Malik stopped. "Sorry, I don't mean to—" "It's okay. You can talk about her." Malik was quiet for a moment. "She was brave, like you. She never let protocol or politics stop her from living, from being present." He smiled sadly. "She would have liked you. You must miss her. Every day. But the grief isn't as sharp now. Time helps, and having people around who remind me that life continues." He glanced at Clara. "People like you." Their eyes held. Clara's heart hammered. Before either could speak, Cairo came running back with a small carved elephant in his hands. "Look, can I buy it? Please?" Malik laughed. "Of course." They spent the rest of the morning wandering the market. Clara bought a bracelet made of colorful beads. Malik insisted on paying, despite her protests. They ate street food, skewered meat and fried plantains that tasted better than anything Clara had ever had. This felt normal, natural, like they were just a family spending time together. Not a king, a prince, and a waitress, just three people enjoying a beautiful day. The afternoon brought unexpected challenges. Back at the palace, Aisha was waiting with a tight expression. "Your Majesty, the council has requested an immediate meeting." Malik's jaw tightened. "About what?" "I think you know." He did. Clara could see it in his face. "Cairo, why don't you show Clara the gardens?" Malik suggested. "I'll find you later." The boy grabbed Clara's hand and pulled her away. But she looked back at Malik, worry churning in her stomach. Whatever was about to happen, it had to do with her. The gardens were stunning. Fountains and flowers and winding paths. Cairo showed her everything, talking non-stop. But Clara's mind was elsewhere. After an hour, a messenger found them. Miss Evans. "His Majesty requests your presence in the East Wing." Clara's stomach dropped. "Okay." She followed the messenger through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Finally, they reached a set of heavy wooden doors. Inside, Malik stood with four older men in formal robes. Their faces were stern, unwelcoming. Malik's expression was carefully neutral. "Clara, thank you for coming. These are my chief advisors. They wanted to meet you." The tallest man stepped forward. His eyes were cold. "Miss Evans, I am Chief Minister Okonkwo. We've heard much about you." "Hello?" Clara's voice came out steadier than she felt. "His Majesty has been very generous in inviting you to Caria. However, there are concerns about this arrangement." "What concerns?" "You are a foreigner. You have no royal blood, no diplomatic training, and yet His Majesty has brought you into the palace as an honored guest." Okonkwo's tone made it clear what he thought of that. "This sends a message. One that could be misinterpreted." Clara's hands clenched. "I'm just visiting." "Are you?" Another advisor spoke up. "Or are you hoping to secure a more permanent position?" "That's enough." Malik's voice cracked like a whip. "Miss Evans is my guest. She saved my son's life. She deserves respect, not interrogation." "Your Majesty, we mean no disrespect, but the people are talking. The international community is watching. Your association with this woman raises questions about your judgment." Clara felt sick. This was exactly what she'd feared, that she'd be a liability, a problem. "I should go," she said quietly. "No." Malik turned to her. "Please stay." "Your Majesty," Okonkwo began. "No, You will listen to me. Malik's voice was steel. I have spent my entire life doing what was expected, what was proper, what served the crown. My wife died, and I grieved alone, because showing weakness wasn't appropriate. I've raised my son in isolation because trust is dangerous. I've made myself into exactly what you wanted, a perfect king who feels nothing and risks nothing. The room went silent, but Miss Evans reminded me that I'm human first, that compassion matters, that joy matters, that choosing happiness isn't weakness, it's courage. Malik looked at each advisor in turn. So I'm making a choice, not as a king, as a man, as a father. I'm choosing to have people in my life who make us better, who bring light instead of politics. And if you can't accept that, then perhaps you're serving the wrong king. Clara's eyes burned with tears. No one had ever defended her like that, stood up for her like that. Minister Okonkwo's expression shifted. Your Majesty, we only want what's best for the kingdom. Then trust me. Trust that I know what's best for my son, for myself, for my ability to rule. Malik's voice softened slightly. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm telling you how it is. The advisors exchanged glances. Finally, Okonkwo bowed his head. As you wish, Your Majesty. They filed out one by one. When the door closed, Malik turned to Clara. I'm sorry you had to endure that. You didn't have to defend me. Yes, I did. He crossed the space between them. They need to understand that you matter, that you're not going anywhere. Clara's breath caught. I'm not? Malik reached for her hands. His were warm and strong. I didn't bring you here just for a visit, Clara. I brought you here because I wanted you to see my world, to understand my life, to decide if— He paused, seeming to gather courage. To decide if you could build a life here, with us. Malik, I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I also know what I feel. And what I feel is that I don't want to imagine my future without you in it. Tears spilled down Clara's cheeks. I'm scared. So am I. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? You're the strongest person I know. Malik squeezed her hands. You stood up to guards. You faced public scrutiny. You flew across the world to give this a chance. That's not weakness, Clara. That's courage. What are you asking me? Malik smiled, a real smile that made his whole face light up. I'm asking you to stay, not just for a visit, but to really stay, to see where this goes, to give us a chance to build something real. Clara's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. This was crazy, impossible. She was a waitress from nowhere. He was a king. But when she looked in his eyes, she saw the truth. Love didn't care about crowns. It didn't care about wealth or status or whether something made sense. Love just was. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll stay. I'll try. I can't promise it'll work, but— Malik pulled her into his arms. The hug was warm and tight and perfect. Clara pressed her face against his chest and let herself cry. Relief, fear, joy, all of it mixed together. Thank you, Malik murmured into her hair. Thank you for being brave enough to try. They stood there for a long time, just holding each other. Two people from different worlds, choosing to build a bridge between them. It wouldn't be easy. Clara knew that. But maybe the best things never were. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Clara learned to navigate palace life, the etiquette, the protocols, the endless stream of faces and names. Amara became her friend and guide, teaching her about Karyahan culture, how to greet people properly, what gestures to avoid, which foods were traditional for which occasions. You're doing well, Amara said one afternoon. Most foreigners take months to learn what you've picked up in weeks. I have a good teacher. You're also motivated. Amara smiled knowingly. Love is a powerful incentive. Clara's cheeks heated. I don't know if it is. Everyone can see it. The way His Majesty looks at you, the way you look at him, it's sweet. It was more than sweet. It was everything. Clara and Malik spent hours together, walking through gardens, playing with Cairo, talking late into the night about everything and nothing. He showed her his country. They drove to the mountains, walked on beaches where the sand was white as snow, visited small villages where children played in the streets. Everywhere they went, Malik introduced Clara proudly, not as a guest, not as a friend, as someone important to him. And slowly, Clara started to believe it. The hardest part was the distance from home. Clara called Nora almost every day, told her everything, the palace, the people, the way Malik made her feel. I miss you, Nora said during one call, but I'm so happy for you. I miss you too, so much. Are you happy there? Clara thought about it, really thought about it. Yes, she said finally. I am. It's still scary sometimes, but I'm happy. Then that's all that matters. Clara also called Rosie at the cafe. The older woman was thrilled. Living with a king! My goodness! Who would have thought? I know. It still doesn't feel real. But it is real, honey. And you deserve every bit of it. Those conversations kept Clara grounded, reminded her where she came from, that she was still herself, even in this new world. 2 months after arriving in Caria, Clara woke to voices outside her window. She wrapped herself in a robe and stepped onto the balcony. Below in the garden, she saw them, Malik and Cairo, playing soccer on the lawn, both laughing and shouting. The boy's face was pure joy. Clara watched them, her heart full. This was what mattered. Not politics or protocols, just a father and son enjoying a beautiful morning. You're up early. Clara turned to find Aisha standing in the doorway. I heard voices. His Majesty tries to play with Cairo every morning, before the meetings and decisions start. Aisha joined her at the railing. He's different since you came. Different how? Lighter. He smiles more, laughs more. He's still the king, of course, but he's also more human. Aisha glanced at Clara. I judged you when we first met. I was wrong to do that. It's okay. No, it's not. You've been good for them, good for this family, and I wanted you to know that I see that now. Clara's throat tightened. Thank you. There's something else you should know. Aisha's voice grew serious. The council is planning something, a test of sorts. What kind of test? A formal state dinner, next week. Diplomats, foreign dignitaries, press. They want to see how you handle the pressure, how you represent yourself alongside His Majesty. Clara's stomach dropped. That sounds terrifying. It is. But I'll help you prepare. We all will. You won't face it alone. After Aisha left, Clara stayed on the balcony. The fear was back, the doubt. But then Malik looked up and saw her. His face brightened. He waved, calling something in Karihan. Cairo waved too, jumping up and down. Clara, come play with us. And just like that, the fear lessened. These people believed in her. They were on her side. She could do this. The week passed too quickly. Clara trained with Aisha every day, learning proper greetings in multiple languages, memorizing the names and titles of every guest attending the dinner, practicing how to walk, sit and eat with perfect posture. It was exhausting, but Malik was there every night, holding her hand, telling her she was doing great, reminding her that she didn't have to be perfect, just herself. They'll love you, he said the night before the dinner. How could they not? Because I'm a waitress pretending to be something I'm not. You're not pretending. You're learning. There's a difference. What if I mess up? Malik cupped her face gently. Then you'll recover. You're strong, Clara. Stronger than you give yourself credit for. He kissed her forehead. Soft. Sweet. A promise that he'd be there no matter what. The state dinner was held in the palace's grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings. Tables were dressed in white and gold. Flowers spilled from every surface. It was magnificent. Overwhelming. Clara wore a gown Aisha had helped her choose. Deep blue silk that flowed when she walked. Simple but elegant. She felt like an imposter in princess clothing. But when Malik saw her, his eyes went wide. You look breathtaking. I look terrified. That too. But mostly breathtaking. He offered his arm. Ready? No. Perfect. Let's go anyway. They entered the ballroom together. Every head turned. Conversations paused. Clara wanted to run, but Malik's hand on her arm was steady, reassuring. Breathe, he whispered. I'm right here. The evening passed in a blur. Introductions, handshakes, small talk in languages Clara barely understood, but she smiled. She listened. She asked questions when appropriate and stayed quiet when she wasn't sure. And something surprising happened. People were kind. Not all of them. Some still looked at her with suspicion, but many were genuinely warm, curious about her, interested in her story. You're the woman who saved the prince, a French ambassador said. That was very brave. Thank you. I just did what anyone would do. But not everyone did, only you. The woman smiled. That says something about your character. By the end of the evening, Clara's feet ached and her face hurt from smiling. But she'd survived. More than survived. She'd actually enjoyed parts of it. As guests began to leave, Malik found her on the terrace. How do you feel? He asked. Exhausted? Relieved? Kind of proud of myself? Malik laughed. You should be. You were amazing. I didn't embarrass you. Never. He pulled her close. You could never embarrass me. He paused, searching for words. You're everything, Clara. Everything I didn't know I needed. Clara looked up at him. In the moonlight, his face was beautiful, strong and gentle at the same time. "I love you," she said. The words surprised her. She hadn't planned to say them, but they were true. Malik's eyes widened, then softened. "Say it again. I love you." "Again. I love you, Malik." He kissed her, soft and slow and perfect. His hands cupped her face like she was something precious. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "I love you too," Malik whispered. "So much it terrifies me." "Good. We can be terrified together." They stood on the terrace, holding each other under the stars. The palace glowed behind them. The ocean whispered below. This was real. This was happening. A waitress and a king, against all odds, against all logic, choosing love anyway. 3 weeks later, Clara stood in the palace gardens with Nora. Her best friend had flown out for a visit, and the reunion had been full of tears and laughter. "This place is insane," Nora said, looking around. "Like, actually insane." "I know. And you're really staying? For good?" Clara nodded. "I'm staying. Are you happy?" "Yes. Really, truly happy." Nora hugged her tight. "Then I'm happy for you, even though I'll miss you like crazy. You can visit any time. Malik already said so. A king giving me an open invitation to visit. This is the weirdest timeline." Nora pulled back, smiling through tears. "But it's also the best one." They walked through the gardens, catching up on everything. Nora told stories about home. Clara shared stories about palace life. "Has he proposed?" Nora asked suddenly. "What? No. We've only been together a few months." "But he will, right? I mean, that's where this is going?" Clara thought about it. She and Malik hadn't talked about marriage specifically, but they'd talked about the future, about building a life together, about Cairo and what came next. "I don't know," Clara said honestly, "but I know I want to be with him. Whatever that looks like, good enough for me." That evening, Clara found Malik in his study. He was working through a stack of papers, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Am I interrupting?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up and his face immediately brightened. "Always, please interrupt." She crossed the room and perched on the edge of his desk. "Nora asked me something today." "What?" "If you were going to propose." Malik set down his pen slowly. "And what did you say?" "I said I didn't know, but that I wanted to be with you no matter what." "Good answer." He stood and moved around the desk to face her. "Because I am going to propose. Eventually. When the time is right. When you're ready." Clara's heart raced. "Really? Really? You're it for me, Clara. You and Cairo. You're my family, my home." He took her hands. "But I won't rush you. I won't pressure you. We have time. What if your council objects? They'll adjust, or they'll find new jobs." His tone was light but firm. "I'm the king and I'm choosing you. That's final." Clara laughed. "You're very bossy." "I'm decisive. There's a difference." "Is there?" "When it comes to you, absolutely." He kissed her. And Clara melted into it, still amazed that this was her life, that she got to kiss a king, that she got to be loved by someone so wonderful. When they pulled apart, Malik rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you for answering that call," he said softly. "Thank you for being brave enough to help a stranger's son. Thank you for giving us a chance." "Thank you for seeing me," Clara whispered back. "Not the waitress, not the poor girl from nowhere. Just me, just you is more than enough." 6 months after Clara arrived in Cairo, the palace held a celebration. Not a formal state dinner, just a party. Music and dancing and joy. Malik had insisted, "My people need to celebrate, and I need an excuse to hold you in my arms." Clara wore a simple white dress and flowers in her hair. Malik wore traditional robes in royal blue. They danced in the garden under strings of lights. Around them, people laughed and ate and celebrated life. Cairo ran between tables, playing with other children. His laughter rang out like bells. "He's happy," Clara said, watching him. "We all are." Malik spun her gently. "You did that. You brought happiness back. We did it together." "Together," Malik agreed. "I like the sound of that." As the sun began to set, Malik led Clara to a quiet corner of the garden, away from the music and crowds. "I have something for you," he said. "You've given me too much already." "Impossible." He pulled a small box from his pocket. Clara's breath caught. "This isn't a proposal," Malik said quickly. "Not yet, but I wanted you to have this, as a promise." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple gold with a small blue stone. "This was my mother's," Malik explained. "She gave it to me before she died, told me to give it to someone I loved. someone who made me better. Tears filled Clara's eyes. You make me better, Clara. Every day, in every way, and I wanted you to know that. To have something that represents what you mean to me. He took the ring from the box. May I? Clara held out her hand, trembling. Malik slid the ring onto her right hand, not the left. Not an engagement ring, but a promise of what could be. I love you, he said, for who you are, for what we're building, for the future I see when I look at you. I love you too. Clara threw her arms around him. So much. They held each other as the sun painted the sky in colors too beautiful to name. In the distance, music played. People laughed. Life continued. But in that moment, Clara and Malik existed in their own world, a world built on courage and compassion and the simple choice to love. It wasn't perfect. There would be challenges ahead, difficulties, moments of doubt, but they would face them together. A king and a waitress, a prince and the woman who saved him. A family built not on blood or tradition, but on the simple, radical act of choosing each other. Clara pulled back and looked at Malik, really looked at him. This man who had changed her entire life with a single phone call. What are you thinking? He asked softly. That this doesn't feel like an ending. It's not, Malik smiled. It's a beginning. And as the sun set over Caria, as the palace glowed with light and laughter, as Cairo ran through the gardens with flowers in his hands, Clara finally understood what she'd been searching for her whole life. Not a fairy tale, not a rescue, not someone to complete her, just a place to belong, a family to love, and the courage to believe she was worthy of both. She'd found all that and more. In a phone call, in a moment of compassion, in the choice to be brave enough to answer when destiny called. Love, she realized, was the great equalizer. It crowned no one, but it freed everyone. And freedom, Clara thought, as Malik kissed her forehead and Cairo crashed into both of them with a hug, was the greatest gift of all. The end.